Hey there, Oz.
Hey, Curtis.
Hey, what movie we watching this week?
This week we are watching the movie Marriage with Steel Magnolias,
Mm-hmm.
meets Beaches,
Yeah.
meets the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Noted.
This week we're watching Terms of Endearment. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You got a dysfunctional family,
Mm-hmm.
unexpected tragedy,
A lot of cannibalism.
lots of screaming.
Yeah. People wearing other people's skin on their
Yeah.
face. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of similarities.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Uh-huh.
So both
I
start
love
with a T. Both take place in Texas.
Yes. You
Partially.
I believe that, yeah, Terms of Endearment is in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre universe.
You ever seen Toby Hooper and James L. Brooks in the same place at the same time?
I haven't.
Pen name.
Yeah. I
That's
can
what
see
think.
John Larroquette narrating Terms of Endearment.
Yeah. John Larroquette, John Lithgow. What's the difference?
They're the same guy.
Right. They're both on the third rock from the sun.
Yeah, they're both John L's.
Yeah. So, welcome back, listeners and viewers, to another week of Let's Talk About Flicks, the podcast where I'm still getting over a cough,
and I am sick as well right now.
Yeah,
we're both phoning in the A effort today.
Yes, we definitely are. So, the podcast where we take a monthly theme.
Mm-hmm.
We are in week 3 of Wives' Choice Month, covering one of my wife's picks this week. And here we are. So before we get rolling, we definitely want to give a shout out to not only the Chicago Indie Critics and the fine work that they all do over there, but also our Patreon subscribers, Don S., Aaron A., Mandy K., Melissa L., Colleen K., and Lyle M. Thank you all for your patronage.
Thank you, one and all.
Yeah. So Terms of Endearment.
Yeah.
A movie I had not seen before.
Neither had I.
Very financially successful, very critically successful.
Yeah. Commercially.
And like we were talking, pre-show a little bit, it's a James L. Brooks film of safety.
Yep, you know exactly what you're gonna get. The highs aren't too high, the lows aren't too low.
But
you're gonna get a 7 out of 10.
And it's quality throughout. And the thing is, this was like his directorial debut, I believe.
Well, I think he was involved with the show Taxi.
True.
I think prior. I want to say he was a producer on Cheers, I think, or like a creator there.
You can say it. It's okay.
No, I don't want. I'm not going to. I want to say.
I want to say.
I want to, but I'm not going.
Fair enough. So I'll say it then. He was a producer on Cheers.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's been said now. Whether it's factual doesn't matter.
Sure.
But it's been said, and so we can move on from that. But no, it is. It's a. It goes to show, because this is what, 83?
Yeah.
Is that right? 83. That I don't get the vibe that this was like an Oscar bait pushed kind of film, but it definitely has that flavor to it.
Sure. Where
you can see as cinema has gone through the ages, 83, despite being like 42 years ago, still the Oscars and all their variety and incantations still have a type that they like, and this checks a lot of the boxes of that type.
Emotional dramas.
Yeah, real life family tragedies.
Yeah, people dying.
Yeah, big stars delivering performances kind of out of their comfort zone. It's
somebody honking Shirley MacLaine.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's very, very standard.
Yeah.
And Danny DeVito. So I've got the plot of this being my wife's pick this week. Yeah. So what do we got for a cast of characters?
As far as the cast, we'll start with the family, because this does center around a mother-daughter relationship throughout. So we have Mother Aurora Greenway, played by Shirley MacLaine. I think she won the Oscar for this. Did she?
She did. Yeah, this was one of those. I think it was nominated for several, like 11 Oscars, but one of those. This was back when there was just 5 nominees per category.
Yeah.
And MacLaine and the next person I'm guessing you're going to introduce, Deborah Winger, were both nominated for Best Actress, which, I mean, warranted, but at the same time, like, that sucks. Like,
Again, it's when it turns into a competition.
Well, and I had read in the trivia that it was more kind of Winger's fault. They really wanted to push her for best supporting actress, thinking that we've got this sweep. Like, everybody's going to come home with something. And Winger was like, no, I want to be nominated for best actress.
Yeah.
And so they made that push, and she lost to Shirley MacLaine, which I'm sure MacLaine wasn't too upset about.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a big not so subtle secret here. These two clashed behind the scenes. Deborah Winger is known for being disruptive on sets and not so easy to work with, and apparently that really happened a lot here behind the scenes.
Yes. Officer and a Gentleman had happened, and there's a couple others that reading through her trivia was like,
she and the Mechanical Bull and Urban Cowboy had it
exactly. They didn't like each other at all.
Not one bit.
She tried her best, though. I mean, she was putting forth full effort, trying, with that bull, and the bull's like, I'm not into it.
No,
I'm not into human women.
Not reciprocating that professional relationship.
So Deborah Winger kind of gives me the vibe of just like a cattle prod. Like, it's like safe enough if you're careful, but you could really get the wrong end. So especially when the Mountie's wielding you around.
The Mountie. That's what was missing from this movie, is that Deborah Winger was not dressed as the Mountie.
Or she wasn't married to the Mountie. That would have been a whole lot different if
there you go.
If the Mountie was her spouse.
Instead of Jeff Daniels. So we got Shirley MacLaine as Mother Aurora, who's like 50-ish. And then we've got the daughter, for most of the film, played by Deborah Winger, Emma Greenway Horton. And there's time jumps throughout the movie. It's Deborah Winger for almost the whole thing.
I'll come back to that.
Yes, I had a feling that was going to come up a lot. We've got next door neighbor, Aurora's next door neighbor, Garrett Breedlove.
Astronaut Garrett Breedlove.
Past his prime astronaut. If I had a nickel for every time I referred to somebody that way, past his prime astronaut, played by, of all people, Jack Nicholson.
If I had a nickel for every time they referred to him as an astronaut, I would have several nickels.
You would have a lot of nickels. Apparently this role was actually written for Burt Reynolds.
I read that, and he's really kicking himself that he didn't take it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
because he was in Stroker Ace instead. Everyone's most memorable Burt Reynolds film, Stroker Ace.
I've got the poster on my wall.
Yeah, I watched it this morning, and I'll watch it again after. It's one of my daily.
Yeah, it's
my daily viewings.
So twice a dayer for you.
Yeah, sometimes I'll throw in Gator, but most of the time it's Stroker Ace.
We've got Jeff Daniels as Flap Horton. That's definitely going to come back later.
Flap.
First name Flap.
What, did he used to be fat? Is that like where he got the nickname? You think?
It's Flap Horton.
Flap Horton.
Cue the funk.
Oh my!
We got John Lithgow, not John Larroquette. Again, John Lithgow as local Iowan Sam Burns.
I really like, because I read a lot of the trivia. You may have seen it too, but like Lithgow was had a short break from filming Footloose.
Yeah, he was only on set for 4 days or something like that.
And as we get into it, boy, talk about character diversity between what you played in Footloose and then took a week off to come film this.
Yeah. We've got Danny DeVito. In Wikipedia, he has 4th billing. I intentionally skipped him just because.
Why?
Yeah, as Vernon Dalhart, one of the suitors.
Yeah.
To Aurora.
I almost put Bram Stoker's Dracula in my movie Marriage.
Okay.
There was a lot of suiting going on.
There was a lot of suiting.
Yeah.
We've got other people. We've got.
Don't forget Patsy.
Oh yeah, that's right. We got Patsy. Played by Lisa Hart Carroll. Apparently this movie has a sequel, Oz.
Yes, and it was a flop.
Yes.
I watched it twice already. I'm kidding, I didn't watch it.
I was just going to say, I don't think so. But yeah, the Patsy character, apparently it's all about Patsy and Aurora's relationship, which, yeah.
Okay.
because that's what people were clamoring for
Yeah.
in 1996.
I'm glad Deborah Winger's character's dead. Give me more Patsy.
Give me more Patsy. I need more Patsy. The Evening Star. That's right. That's what it was called.
Yeah.
The Evening Star.
I think Nicholson was in that too.
I think he had a cameo in it.
Yeah.
I ended up reading some about it, and he had a brief cameo in it. That's what people were clamoring for.
Mm-hmm.
More Patsy.
Right. Give me Patsy.
Yep. That's really about it. I think there's some kids.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Teddy and Tommy. It doesn't matter. Like they're there as kids. Yes. That's really the role they play as kids.
Tragic children is their role.
There's a baby too, but Melanie. That was the baby's name. Melanie.
Albert Brooks did a voiceover for Aurora's husband, like in the first 30 seconds of the movie.
Exactly. So, plot wise, this movie spans the dawn of time.
It starts on the monolith from 2001.
It does. And we get Shirley MacLaine finding a bone.
Yes, just dancing around.
Yeah.
Ends up killing Deborah Winger with the bone.
Yeah, later.
Yeah. That's the
spoiler alert.
Moment.
Spoiler alert. Yeah. No, we kick off the movie. Now again, I've not seen this movie prior. I really didn't know anything about the plot, which was fine. Like I didn't want to know the details. So I went into this film and my wife had even said there's a couple of nights that we almost watched it. She's like, I don't feel like crying. Like I'll probably cry. I don't feel like crying tonight. I'm like, that's fine. So we watched this movie Friday night. And I didn't know what the movie was about other than she's saying, I don't want to cry.
Okay.
So the movie starts out like you got like a baby in a crib and Shirley MacLaine's character, Aurora, walks in. She's like, the baby's dead.
Yeah.
And my eyes light up and I look at my wife and I go, already? And then, of course, basically she pinches the baby so the baby starts crying. She's like, okay, that's better. And then walks out. Just really setting the tone for nothing matters in Aurora's life outside of her daughter.
Yeah.
And she really struggles with how to, I don't want to say parent correctly because there is no playbook on parenting, but her approach to her relationship with
boundaries.
Emma, it defies some boundaries. Like here's a baby that's asleep and you see the baby is sleeping and you instantly assume the baby is dead.
Yes.
And the part that really got me in this opening scene was there wasn't a ton of over dramatic freaking out. It was just crib death.
Yep, that's what my baby's dead.
Crib death. And, and then, like I said, pinches the baby and it starts crying and okay, that's better. And then she exits the room as the baby is screaming.
Yes. Aurora has a very, very codependent relationship with Emma.
Yes. And it's more like Emma's comfort level doesn't matter to me as long as I am satisfied.
Yes.
And that's a stretch through this whole movie.
It's not quite the Munchausen's by proxy that that we had with Bubble Boy.
Not quite. And so our first time jump, we fast forward to now Aurora is a widow. We're at like 13, probably somewhere around there. We didn't really see the baby. And this is the first of many out of nowhere time jumps.
Yeah.
And I have a problem in film, and this movie checks the boxes of said problem. If you were going to do a chronological jump in time, but not change the way your main characters look, you're gonna confuse the audience.
If I had the movie marriage this week, I probably would have ended it by singing "Time Warp" from Rocky Horror.
That would have worked, or Looper, like Bruce Willis.
Looper.
It's because this movie, like some that we've covered somewhat recently, this movie felt like a play.
Yeah.
In some ways. And so you fast forward to age 13, where Emma is, for the first time in the movie, played by Deborah Winger.
Yeah.
Who's playing a 13-year-old girl with a retainer, and it's just, but you're looking at it and you're like, that's an adult woman.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, it's silly. And then of course you cut to Aurora, who looks exactly like she did 13 years ago. Yeah. And look, I mean, it's like Winger and McClane do not change through this entire film.
Yeah, through the entire movie, yeah.
And
despite
so
all the time jumps.
The chronology of the film is told through setting, but more importantly, through how many kids Deborah Winger has.
That's how you determine time. Does she have 0 children, 1 child, 2 children, or 3 children?
That's how this movie plays out chronologically. Is the ages of the Horton children, Horton children, which is. It's not, I mean, you catch on pretty quick, but it's such a bizarre way to show a time change. When nobody gets older except
there's
children.
no like 10 years later.
No.
Or I mean, again, for better and for worse, they also don't do the, well, it's been 10 years since I pinched your cheek in the cradle.
Right. You're right. To be fair, there's no like exposition of chronology, but it's jarring.
You remember that time 10 years ago? When I pinched your cheek in the cradle and I thought you were dead.
Remember?
But
it's jarring because there's no indication of the time. I mean, they'll switch to a new scene, and then it's not until 30 seconds to a minute into that scene do you realize that the time has changed.
Yeah. And
so it's just bizarre. Like, because Aurora and Emma talk on the phone a lot.
Yes.
And a lot of their scene changes happen to be like almost like a phone call. So
you know what they should have done is done it by the technology of the phone.
That would have been okay.
So like the first phone call, it's like cup and string.
Right. Pony Express.
And the second, it's operator.
Yeah,
I need to make a telephone call to Iowa.
And but it's just, I don't know. It took me some getting used to. To be like, you guys how many times have you called today? And you're like, oh wait, never mind. You have a baby and you're pregnant again. Okay, so it's been a while. But then you raise the question of, because you guys talk all the time, then have you not talked in a while? Like, it leaves a lot of holes. Anyway, back to the plot. We got 13-year-old Emma, who, this is where we meet Patsy.
Yeah.
And, Emma, we just kind of get the idea from Emma that, for lack of better terminology, Emma's just kind of dumb.
She doesn't come across as very bright.
She does not come across as very intelligent. And so she's sitting there, she's got a dress on, she got like her thigh showing, and she's just yucking it up, laughing at these movers or whatever they are, just these workmen. Even Patsy comes up and covers her leg, and she's like, oh, so that's what they've been staring at. Like, yeah. Fast forward again. And we've got, which again, because Deborah Winger and Patsy don't look any different.
No.
But it's now the eve of her wedding.
Yeah, now they're, I don't know, late teens, 20-ish.
Yeah. And we're honestly 8 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
And we've already gone from infant to,
like adolescent.
Exactly.
Yeah. On the verge of getting married.
Right. And we get a very expected overview of what Aurora thinks of Flap. Aurora's going to think that about any guy that's going to be in her life. I don't like him. He's got no ambition. He's not good enough for you, et cetera, et cetera. And of course she's like, well, I love him, mama. Like, that's just how it's going to be. She and Flap get married.
She even tells him, I took that a quote from this moment. This is Aurora telling her daughter, you are not special enough to overcome a bad marriage.
Yeah.
Ow.
Right.
Ow.
Yeah. Like, I love you, but you're not
a
that
special
great.
person.
You're not that great. Like,
I mean, you're special, I guess, to me.
right. But again, that's something a very possessive parent would say to a kid.
Yeah. To kind of to keep them a little close.
Yeah.
Lower their
Yeah. You need me more than you need him.
Uh-huh.
So she gets married to Flap. Flap lives he's like an aspiring associate English professor or something like that.
Like David Hyde Pierce's character from Wet Hot American
Pretty much, yeah.
Associate.
Yeah. And
I
so
said no.
he wants to be an English professor.
Yeah.
He lives upstairs in apparently a place that they painted 75 centuries ago. It is still just peeling.
Yeah.
But it's he's poor.
That was actually the style of paint they went with. It's just
right.
It's
chipped.
The swatch, it's just peeling on the swatch.
Right. I'd really like a chipped paint job. And so you get the vibe Emma really just wants to escape mom.
Yeah, that's really it. And she never her way out.
Yeah, she never really says as much, but she's like, "But I love him," and
do you?
And yeah, even mom's like, "Well, what do you love about him?" It's just him.
He's just Flap.
But
he's so flappy.
Look at him. He's just a bird. It's like Chris Anderson over there.
Chris Anderson.
He's the bird man.
Big neck tattoo.
Yeah. He's the bird man. He's so flappy. And so, but despite Emma moving out and moving into Flaps, and they're just living. I mean, that's what they're doing. Nothing really has changed in Flap's world other than he has a woman now to satisfy his urges. But for Emma, it's a whole new world, but the phone's still ringing seemingly every 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Because Aurora's alone and all she does is think about Emma.
Yeah.
So she calls her all the time.
Codependent.
Flap does not care for her at all.
Yeah.
And the feeling is mutual. And so you feel for Emma because she's stuck in the middle of this. I don't want to call it a triangle because it's not. It's like she's the center point of this
tug of war.
Yeah. She's like the flag in a game of tug of war where it's she loves both ends, but she's constantly being pulled. And neither side puts her feelings first and foremost.
Yeah.
They're just, And so Flap gets a job offer to be a professor, associate, whatever, in Des Moines, Iowa. Which, honestly, in 2025, wouldn't be such a bad deal. Like, Des Moines kind of this up-and-coming...
Yeah. You got the AAA Cubs.
But it's like, I would assume back in the early 80s, Des Moines was probably like, Des Moines. And so they pack and they're leaving. There is some comedy in this movie. It's not anywhere near like slapstick or even jokes. It's more just kind of situational.
I mean, that scene with Jeff Daniels on the toilet. That gets me going every time.
Yeah.
Wait a second.
But
that's why they called him Flap.
There's a scene in this where they're getting ready to leave for Iowa. They pack up and Aurora and Patsy come to see him off. And she's had a baby now. Let's not forget that.
Of course. Baby number one.
Right.
Because that's how you follow the chronology.
Right. Baby number one. I like I said, it's hard to keep track because there are just these like nuggets of. So yeah, she's had baby number one, and they're gonna pack up and leave for Iowa, and they load the baby in, and Emma gets in, and Flap's driving, and she's just like, and she says something like, pull away slow, my mom's waving, and he just hammers the gas.
Yeah,
it's like I can't wait to get out of here.
Literally leaves her in a cloud of dust.
Yes. And so this really is kind of where the movie takes off because we have Emma and Flap and baby number one in Iowa. And Aurora's not around physically, But we also have Aurora home by herself. Like, she's now left with, I don't have anything to fill my time with.
Yeah.
A series of gentlemen suitors apparently all come over together. Like,
yeah. Because that's how you suit someone, is
right.
You have to compete.
It's like old man and Danny DeVito.
Uh-huh.
And the Danny DeVito character, I mean, neither suitor matters.
No.
Which the other one you could forget about, but like Danny DeVito's like, but that's Danny DeVito.
Yeah, it's
like,
Danny DeVito. Like, if you're gonna cast Danny DeVito,
let him
do something.
At least out of those two, like sub-level suitors, he's the one that got her attention.
At least let him bite somebody's nose off.
Exactly. Give him something to do. But we also meet Garrett Breedlove, the former astronaut neighbor of Aurora, yes, who is quite the womanizer. And apparently it must have worked in the 80s, but his pickup line seems to be, I've been to outer space. Because he's constantly throwing parties full of much younger people.
Yes.
He's out on dates with much younger women.
Mm-hmm.
He's constantly just this, it's gross. It's not even kind of gross. It's just gross. Just kind of a arrested, developed,
mm-hmm,
like,
that's the lifestyle loop he's made for himself.
Just sexual predator of sorts.
I've been to outer space, ladies.
Been to outer space. You know, Astronaut Jones.
You ever poop in a tube?
Right. It would be funny if this is where they got the Astronaut Jones, where it's like
this was what led to it.
I'm an astronaut and I've found an extraterrestrial woman and I'm going to let you know what I want to do with her.
At the time of this recording, it's the day after the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary.
I didn't watch it. I'm very curious.
I'm about a third of the way through.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good. The production is just all over the place because it's live and it's such big in scope. And actually, as I'm saying that, I'm actually referencing the concert that they did on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, Friday night.
And Tracy Morgan comes out and he sings the Astronaut Jones theme song.
I'm gonna have to find that. That was one of my favorite.
Taking a rocket.
I do. I love that skit. I honestly, I think I just love that era of SNL's like songs.
Yeah.
You know, there was just that stupid, you know, the Astronaut Jones. What's the other Tracy Morgan character that we reference a lot?
Brian Fellows.
Brian Fellows,
Safari Planet.
Yeah, it's just so good. Like the skits are fun, but it's like they really dedicated to, let's create a theme song for this.
Yeah,
character.
Just very like irreverent.
Mm-hmm. This is fun. And that kind of echoed over into like Werewolf Bar Mitzvah
in 30 Rock, yeah.
And
spooky, scary.
So we meet Garrett, and you know, and really what we see here with Garrett is he's getting to a point where he's being rejected.
Mm-hmm.
Like we get one scene where like he comes home with these two very, very much younger women.
Yeah.
And he's inviting, like he falls out of the car because he's constantly drunk.
Yeah.
He falls out of the car and like busts his head open and he's got a gash that honestly should have been bleeding, but it really wasn't because it's
Jack Nicholson.
It's James L. Brooks. Like it's, and so he, you know, he's like, would you like to come in? And they're like, no. Like, that's
gross.
Yeah, no. And so, you know, it's like, there's just like, no. And then he like passes on to the next girl. How about you? Do you want to come in? It's just like, no. Yeah. And so he's like, fine. So I think there's a little bit of self-realization in Garrett that of like, this sucks, you know.
The shtick is finally starting to wear.
Right. And so we've got this kind of split story going with what Aurora's up to and what Emma's up to. Emma's dealing with, well, she calls her mom again from Iowa. You know, we've got a time jump to where now she's pregnant again.
Yes.
She calls mom and asks for some money. And mom's got this silly Renoir painting that seems to be a central theme.
Yeah, it keeps coming up.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Yeah,
It's silly,
you could
but
sell the Renoir.
no, oh no, I was going to give that to you for something.
That's my
Um,
Renoir.
right. And so she calls mom, like, Mom, can you send me some money? And she's like, oh, and by the way, I'm also pregnant again. And this is like pregnant with a third kid. Like,
Yeah, at one point in the movie they just keep coming.
And so, Aurora's like, you should just go to Colorado and get an abortion. She already has 2 kids. Like, that seems to be a very conflicting message.
Well, and it's pretty presumptive.
Yes.
And if Emma wants to make that decision,
right,
by God, that's Emma's choice. But
exactly. But
Aurora just kind of just casually float that out there, like, whoa.
Right. Well, especially of like, hey, Mom, we're hard up on money, and I'm pregnant. She's like, well, get rid of the baby, and you want, like that's going to solve all your financial problems.
Done.
And so, Emma also runs into this, like, Flap spending a lot of time at the office,
flapping.
Yeah, and he's, by the way, like an associate college professor. Why the long nights? Don't know, but. So she's just calling him out, like, are you having an affair? And she's like, no, you're paranoid. Like, you always get this way.
What's an affair? I don't even know what that word is, and I'm an English teacher.
Yeah, our lights were running out of gas, so I brought home some gaslight for it. But like, it's like, no, he's like, no, it's your hormones, it's your pregnancy hormones.
Yeah. It's just your female brain.
So what we run into with Emma is, it's an odd situation where she reaches out to her mom, who isn't there for her in the way that she needs her to be. And now she can't trust her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get this scene, which has a point, but it just felt like we're just kind of rubbing your face in it.
Mm-hmm.
Emma's at the grocery store and with the boys, and naturally, when scenes like this are in a movie, there's always 14 people in line behind you.
Yep.
Always.
And they're all looking at their watch and tapping their feet.
They're all staring at you as you're checking out, and she doesn't have enough money.
Speaking of John Larroquette, this exact scene was in, what was the John Candy movie we did? Summer Rental.
Yeah. You're right. It was.
Yeah, that was 2 years after this.
Yeah,
the exact same scene.
Yeah, at the movie theater.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's universe. John L. universe.
It's there, the Larroquette verse.
Yeah. And so, she's running into this, I don't have any money, and she's putting stuff back, but it's like, she gives up like a package of Clark bars or something, which takes some money off the total. By the way, this lady at the checkout is very smart. Because she's not punching into the cash register what's being taken out, what's being added. She's just telling her, like, well, I'm going to subtract 75 cents. Here's your new total.
Yeah, it's quick mental math. Good for her.
On the fly. Good for her. Of course, then the boys are like, but you promised we can have a candy bar. So that she adds a candy bar. Oh, we're going the wrong direction here. And this is where John Lithgow comes in. He's like, she's honestly like $2 short. Like $2. This isn't 2025 grocery shopping. She's got like a week and a half's worth of groceries for like $40.
Yeah.
And she's $2 short, and she's pleading with the woman, like, can you just cut me a break? Like, come on. She's like, can't do it. Sorry. John Lithgow's like, can I help? And she's like, aren't you the banker that just denied me a loan? Like,
yeah, about that.
And he's like, yeah, but it's $2. Let me help you out. Clearly he has feelings for her. Like it's almost like it's written on his face. Like, I like you. I like you. I like you.
Ooga.
And so this is honestly the first positive attention she's gotten in a while.
Yeah, someone's being genuine with her.
Yeah. Despite the fact that, of course, she has 3 kids. So we know that attention is there. But this is like emotion. Like, he's there for her. He's looking out for her. And so, Sam steps in, introduces himself, pays for the rest of her groceries so she can leave. We get kind of another, and again, the humor in the movie is, it's it's episodic, but it's there.
Yeah.
He kind of walks her out to the car, and she's like, "I'll stop by and give you your $2." She's like, "It's not a problem." He's like, "But I will. Like, I'll bring it by tomorrow." And he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah. Just go ahead and bring it by the bank." Meanwhile, like, one of the kids is kind of pestering her. She just starts yelling at the kids, just
tears into them,
just screaming at the boys.
Mm-hmm.
To which then Lithgow's like, "Well, you got a good relationship with your kids," like, and she's like, "Oh yeah, thanks," like, because she's kind of dumb.
This scene was also referenced in the John Cusack skiing movie. I want my $2.
I want my $2.
Why am I blanking on the name of the movie?
Better Off Dead.
Thank you.
And so that they took that from a deleted scene of John Lithgow saying that to her in the parking lot. Well, I want my $2.
I want my $2, if you know what I mean.
You could stop by. I know that you don't have it, or else you would have had it today.
Because I've seen your bank account.
And I just denied you a bank loan. Yeah. So I want my $2. Like, I mean,
he was cordial about it.
Yeah. Or you could work it off. Like, Sam's willing to make that deal. So she comes by the bank to, clean. Like, gets a job. Anyway,
to do the dishes at the bank.
So, we cut back to Aurora, and Aurora's got all the suitors are over, including her doctor for some reason. She's having a birthday party.
Yeah.
And really, Aurora has never had anyone but Emma. Mm-hmm. Like, once she became a widow, no one but Emma. And so when she's having a birthday party and her family is in Iowa, this is pretty much what she's got is
local suitors.
Old man suitor 1, Danny DeVito, and her doctor. And again, the comedy of celebrating like her 50th birthday, and the doctor chimes in, he's like, "You're 52. She's like, "Nah, I'm 50. And he's like, "I've seen your charts. You're 50. Like, he's like adamant. And she's had enough because really none of this is satisfying. Mm-hmm. She has had a conversation with Garrett at this point.
Yeah, and literally, it was a couple of years in the past.
Yeah, it was a couple of years in the past. That's right. Because time jumps.
Yes.
And this was the only time where she does reference, it was a couple of years ago. Because honestly, I didn't realize that much time had passed.
This movie is also in the Pulp Fiction verse.
Well, this podcast plot summary certainly is.
It all ends with John Travolta getting shot out of the toilet.
Yeah. Shot Marvin in the head. And so, I did bypass a scene where like they have this like over the white picket fence conversation.
Yeah.
Where she's tending to her garden, I guess. Mm-hmm. And it's not really flirt. He's trying to flirt.
I think he's trying to just sort of have a conversation with her. Like, who is this neighbor? We've lived next to each other for years.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like full press flirting, but it's just that's just in Garrett's DNA.
That's how he talks to females.
Yeah, that's just how he does it. So they come to the edge of the fence at the driveway, and they're just he invites her to lunch. Mm-hmm. Dinner, and she's like, "I know." He's like, "What about lunch?" And he's honestly just like, he's trying something new because he's striking out with the youth of today.
With the youths. Hello, fellow young person.
And so he's just, let's just do lunch. And she's like, "Nah, I basically, I don't patronize with neighbors. Like, I don't do that." Because Aurora's got morals? I don't know. I don't think Aurora knows from moment to moment what Aurora is going to do.
No. She just wants to be in control.
She's just in control, and she's afraid. So fast forward 2 years, birthday party kind of falls apart. So she goes next door to Garrett's, who oddly has his front door wide open.
Yeah.
No screen door, just front door wide open. And she kind of clears her throat and knocks. He's just reading. And she's like, I would like to go to lunch. And he's completely forgotten.
Yeah, he doesn't remember that conversation. He's also half drunk.
Right. And so finally it's like, okay, let's do lunch. They settle this. Mm-hmm. And so back and forth of, Emma and Flap are deteriorating.
Yeah.
she goes to campus and in a not subtle at all attempt to hide behind the bush, like, catches him flirting with one of his students. Like, she's like running her fingers through his hair as he has like Melanie the baby and like a baby Bjorn on the front. Like,
yes,
this is kudos to this college co-ed. Like, when you're flirting with your professor and he's standing in front of you with his child strapped to his chest,
wearing his baby,
and you're still interested, you really are interested in it. Mm-hmm. You know, like, I'm not saying that it's an appropriate relationship,
or you really really want that A.
Exactly. Like, I'll even babysit your kid. I don't care. And so, you know, it's odd though, because, you know, Emma catches this happening, but she's already had a relationship with Sam. Mm-hmm. Like, she's been going to dinners with, like, lunches with Sam. They hold hands. It's kind of a funny, because they talk about Sam's intimacy with his wife.
Or lack thereof.
And Sam is very conservative.
He's a very reserved person.
Reserved is a better term. There's appropriate time to speak of these things, and we're at lunch, and Emma's just like, well, you know, like, what position, and have you tried this? And oh no, she won't do that. She won't do that. She's like, well, have you asked her? And it's like about 600 times. Like, you know, it's kind of another little just kind of funny conversation. So Emma's doing this stuff with Sam just based on a hunch that she has about Flap. And then, of course, her hunch comes true when she catches Flap flirting. They have this brawl, basically.
Yeah.
You know, and again, another little side note, as they're arguing, and all the students, because the entire campus lets out. The entire campus,
just to watch this argument.
The entire campus seems to be standing there watching these two argue. And then as Emma runs off, you hear a kid go, you know, Professor Horton, can I get an extension on that paper or something like that? It's just silly. So we get, I'm looking at time here. We get Emma and Flap's relationship deteriorating. Mm-hmm. They're going to fix it because he got a job offer in Nebraska.
Mm-hmm. That'll fix it. Moving to Nebraska fixes
So if
everything.
we go to Nebraska, then all of these temptations in Iowa are gone. So they do. Basically, he agrees to take the job.
I promise I will never die.
Right. So they go to Nebraska. He's got this new job. Emma comes across Janice on campus.
Yeah, the same girl who was running her fingers through Flap's hair.
And calls her out, like she's pushing a baby stroller and like leaves the stroller, like, and just finally yells, like, can you just come back here, please? Like, do me this. Don't make me chase you. Come on, you know. And Janice basically, we're a thing. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, again, I don't care about time at this point. Like, it doesn't matter.
Just do your thing, whatever.
I know. I'm trying to stay consistent with the chronology, but it's hard. Meanwhile, Aurora and Garrett have really sparked a romance. Mm-hmm. They go on a first date that ends, that ends with them in a very Jack Nicholson way. Like, he's driving his car with his feet as he sits on the T-top. She's applying the pressure on the gas, which seems very un-Aurora-like, as they're just like doing donuts on the beach. Okay. They end up driving into the water. They start seeing each other more often. Mm-hmm. They're together.
They're seemingly happy enough.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Aurora has
companions.
Yes. I think Aurora with Garrett has found that I can relax. Like, I don't have to be in control of everything. Mm-hmm. Sometimes fun things can happen when you just let loose.
It's okay to be spontaneous.
Right. And so she's really getting some satisfaction out of this. Garrett has found some consistency. He's having fun. and he's not being rejected. Like he's still satisfying all these needs. After the Nebraska thing, Emma and the kids come home. They come back to Texas.
Yeah.
And this is where things kind of fizzle.
Yeah.
Because Garrett has only seen Aurora as Aurora, my neighbor. Aurora, my love interest. Aurora, my companion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now he gets a major dose of Aurora, the grandma.
Yeah. Aurora, the family member.
Yes. And he doesn't like it.
Yeah.
You know,
Just,
he even
too
says
much for him.
He even says to her, like, I'm feeling like this is becoming an obligation.
Yep. I took that quote down as well.
Feel like this is becoming an obligation. And I'm going to have to step out. Like, it's not what I'm looking for. And it was handled well. I just feel like the way that they shot it and filmed it didn't turn into this big knockdown drag out fight. It was, you know, Aurora was obviously, she didn't agree with it. She didn't like it, but she also realized there's nothing I can do about it. Like, you know, so there was some maturity there, thankfully.
Well, she just kind of got snippy with him. It's
almost
almost like she was waiting, like she's been waiting for this.
Yeah. Right.
You know, for this to happen for months and months, and it finally did. And she just kind of, okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. Like, that's all you do is talk. And it's, but that put Aurora back into the Aurora we've seen pretty much the whole movie. And so I think I got things screwed up with when they went to Nebraska. Whatever.
Yeah,
doesn't matter. So Emma goes back to Nebraska with the kids and is diagnosed with cancer. She's getting a shot, and the doctor's like, you got a couple lumps in your armpit. She's like, and even Aurora's like, don't worry about it. It's probably just a clogged sweat gland. You're fine. You know, it's not. It's terminal cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Patsy convinces Emma to go to New York City with her, which this is 80s New York City, where these are like power suit women and, you know, which is not Emma at all. Like, Emma is not comfortable in this situation.
Yeah.
They're not comfortable with her.
I might bring this up later.
That's fair. Yeah. So she's really out of her element. Patsy's, to her credit, Patsy's trying to balance both of her lifestyles. She's trying. But again, this is a time where, like, being public with your your ailments and illnesses is not appropriate. And so, like, her friends are just really uncomfortable because they were just taken aback. Like, oh, you don't work? Like, you're just a mom of three. You rely on a man. Like, you're supposed to wear shoulder pads and be in a Robert Palmer video. Like,
simply irresistible.
But then, of course, Patsy tells them in secret that she's got cancer. And then suddenly they're all like, oh, well, you know, they're just fawning after her.
Yeah.
And of course, Emma the whole time's like, what's the big deal? Like, what's the big deal? Like, what? It's just, I have cancer. Like,
yeah, treat me like a person,
I'm
not
still
like a cancer patient.
Yeah, I'm still here. Like, it's not that big a deal. So this is, I mean, Act 3 is really dominated by this cancer thing.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Emma just continues to deteriorate. You know, she's in a hospital bed. Aurora and Patsy and Flap, like, they're all there by her side. Garrett comes in to be there for Aurora, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, they still have that mutual respect for each other, but they each have their own personal reasons.
Sure.
Why. More Garrett than Aurora. Emma basically tells Flap, you got to give up the kids. Like, you can't do this.
Yeah.
And, you know, Flappy was like, it's like he knows she's right.
Well, and Aurora right before that scene, Aurora had confronted Flap. They ran into each other in the hospital cafeteria. And Aurora basically told Flap, give me the kids.
Yeah. Yeah. And because they were sitting at different tables, and Flap actually came over to sit with her, which I thought was respectful and kind of cool of him.
We both recognize we're in the same place. We know each other.
It's like, let bygones be bygones. You know, we're here for Emma. Which, Aurora was like, give me the kids. Like, you're not a good father. You can't do it. Which then Emma, in essence, has the same talk. But then Flap kind of knows he's got an out.
Yeah.
You know, he never really mentioned it. And I never felt Flap was advanced enough to be like manipulative, like to where it's like, I'm going to balance this to where like I already have Aurora wanting the kids. So I'm going to segue this into being completely free of my children.
I don't think the you're being paranoid argument would work on Aurora.
No, I don't think so. And so Emma dies staring at Aurora. Like, Aurora, I mean, to credit, like, Flap was there for her. I'm not saying Flap was a good guy, but
he was there at the end.
He was there at the
present.
End. Yeah, again, he comes up later for me, but Emma dies. We get one final scene at, basically Aurora's garden in Houston. The grandkids are there, Flap's there, Patsy's there, Garrett's there. Like, everybody's, because now that they need to be there for Aurora. Mm-hmm. And there's this new formed family. They're living together in Houston. And like, we get to see that we haven't mentioned the kids at all. Like, the oldest boy, I don't know if it's Teddy or Tommy. It doesn't matter. Is very standoffish, with mom. Mm-hmm. Because he views that mom is the reason there's a marital problem.
Yeah, it's mom's fault.
Yeah, and so we get this kind of cool scene where, like, Garrett gets through to him, where Flap couldn't get through to him. And so it all settles to where everything will be okay, and then that's the movie. So, yeah, it's, as usual, I don't feel like I did much justice in the plot summary, but
it was fine. With the time jumps in this movie, it does make kind of a hard follow sometimes narratively. Yeah. So, hey folks, every week Oz and I give our own unique rating to the film we talk about, in this case 1983's Terms of Endearment. Oz, how would you rate this flick?
I'm giving this one 2 Batman villains.
2 Batman villains.
Yep. How about you?
By the way, it took me a second to Danny DeVito was the other one. That's right. I'm going to go with, let's go with 71 Cornhuskers, because this movie, all the college scenes, although it was largely set in Iowa, it was all filmed at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln.
It was. I will give it Cornhuskers for sure.
Cornhuskers. My favorite high school, athletic team nickname ever, is in Hoopeston, Illinois.
Yeah.
About a little over an hour south of where I grew up, kind of probably 3 hours due east from you. It's the Hoopeston Corn Jerkers.
Corn Jerkers.
Corn Jerkers. Yep.
That's fun. I was always a fan of the Freeport Pretzels.
But the Freeport Pretzels is a close second for me.
Yeah.
But the Hoopeston Corn Jerkers
collegiately, it's probably the University of California, Santa Barbara Banana Slugs.
That's pretty good too. Yeah.
Okay. But the Corn Jerkers.
Corn Jerkers. I don't know if that's still what it is, but I know when I was in high school, it was the Corn Jerkers.
I'm glad the Pekin Dragons changed to the Dragons.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, for those who know your local lore in central Illinois, Pekin High School was not always the Dragons.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. We will let you do your own digging.
Or not. Honestly.
Yes, or if
just let it die.
If you don't want to feel ashamed to be an American. Yeah.
Let it die on the vine.
Mm-hmm. Hey, folks, every week, Oz and I, we scour the interwebs searching for unprofessional reviews that tickle our funny bones, and we hope they tickle yours as well in our next comedy segment, Outside Insights. Hey, Oz, my friend, what is your outside insight?
I just got one. This is from Adam Mirabella. It's a half-star review. And he says, well, there's 2 hours of my life I'll never get back. This movie was god-awful. Lady has weird relationship with her mom. Gets married. Moves to Idaho. Pops out a couple kids. May not have been paying close attention. Moves to Idaho. Pops out a couple kids. Cheats on her husband. Then gets mad when he might have cheated on her. Never confirmed. Then suddenly gets cancer and dies. All while her mom sleeps with her neighbor. Also, Danny DeVito's character has no point. There was no point to this whole story. No good character arcs. Not even really much of any climax. It's the moving the Idaho part.
Move to Idaho. A couple of minor differences. Idaho.
Popped out a couple. But he's not wrong. I think you might be cheating, so I'm going to pre-cheat.
Yeah. That's why you put in the cheat code.
That's true. Yeah, I used my game genie to get around it. That's what she called Sam. Sam's my game genie.
Game genie. Sam the game genie.
That's right. What do you got for an outside insight?
I think I think we're getting some cheers from outside the room right now. My outside insight, as always, comes from the Internet Movie Database, and I think the person who wrote mine might be the same person who wrote yours.
Adam Mirabella.
I think it might be Adam Mirabella. His IMDb name is Kitten2.
It is. It is him. Yeah.
Yep. Left a 1 out of 10 in February 2005 with the subject line, "She made me watch it." My girlfriend made me watch this. She bought a box of Kleenex, not like I needed them. Deborah Winger is the worst actress ever. Who's supposed to relate to this crap? Boo-hoo. You gave up your life to raise the kids of a guy whose connection to you is tenuous at best. Mommy doesn't approve, but has to love the kids despite. Also has to post-maturely try out courtship awkwardly. Jack even says he likes them younger. Sorry, but duh, who wouldn't? Has an affair. Gets cancer. Hubby's fooling around. Sorry, who wouldn't? She's soccer mom. Yawn. Yeah, sure. I feel like she's got a terminal disease, but she was pretty generic and unlikable anyway. You wanted her to be gone. God, even the geriatric love story was more interesting. And whoever says that? No hankies necessary. This is contrived, pathetic, girly crap. I gave it a chance. I swear. I tried to find merit in it for my girlfriend's sake, but there was nothing to find. Don't make your boyfriend watch it. He'll secretly resent you forever. Forever.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. Kitten2, you must be a joy to be in a relationship with.
I bet. Well, luckily his girlfriend's younger than he is. So.
Yes. Oh, God, what a creep.
Yeah.
What a creep.
Ugh.
Yep. Thanks, Kitten2, for those insights here.
Glad they're outside.
They are outside. Yep. Hey, folks, it's that point in the show you've all been waiting for. The Let's Talk About Flicks signature segment, the 3, 2, 1, in which Oz and I each share 3 goods, 2 bads, and just 1 about this week's movie, Terms of Endearment. Oz, what are your 3 goods?
Oh, honestly, McClane and Winger did do a great job.
Sure.
Like, they both were nominated for Best Actress. Mm-hmm. I think it was warranted. I've said I'm not a big Deborah Winger fan, but that doesn't mean she didn't have a strong performance in this film.
Sure.
Like, it's fine. Like, I recognize that just because you're talented doesn't mean I enjoy that talent.
Sure.
Looking at you, Vince. Looking at you, Vince Vaughn. Like, but it's just, it
is a tragedy he's never been nominated for an Oscar.
Right.
I mean, Swingers, come on.
I didn't mind his performance in Swingers. I mean,
but Oscar worthy.
Yeah, Oscar worthy. No. So that's my first go. It's just Winger and McClane, especially when you know about all the behind the scenes friction. I think that shows
still made it work.
How professional Shirley MacLaine is.
Yeah,
because Winger wasn't going to change for her. So, 2, I really enjoyed the humor and drama balance too.
Yes.
I mean, this movie is very, very much so a drama, like super drama. But there was enough humor in there. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it wasn't, it was appropriate humor for the context. It wasn't, it was more realistic. It wasn't slapstick or it
wasn't Jeff Daniels on the toilet.
Exactly. But I mean, there were some humorous lines in there
Mm-hmm.
that made it feel a little more grounded and real, which helped with the rest of the plot. And my third is just a very strong supporting cast.
Sure.
There wasn't, like I mentioned pre-show, there wasn't any weak links in this film, even though I give Winger a lot of credit. I think, when you look across the board, like her performance was arguably the one that stuck out most as being off. Did I could be wrong. Lithgow got some attention for this, I believe.
I think he got a Best Supporting Actor nod.
Yeah, I know Nicholson won it. Yeah, he was nominated for Best Actor in a Supporting Role.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, Nicholson won it, and Lithgow was nominated. And when you figure the dude was only on set for like 4 days, 3 or 4 days. So good for him.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so those are my three. It's just like I said, Winger and McClane, the humor and drama balance, and the supporting cast.
The humor one I would have used had you not already.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
What you got?
Let's go with Acts 1 and 2 had solid pacing to it.
Mm-hmm. I
Um,
agree.
like it's the movie is over 2 hours and it didn't feel like an over 2 hour movie, which I think is a credit to James L. Brooks knows how to tell a story.
Right.
I think it also speaks to the editing as well. So
Mm-hmm.
again, Act 3 got a little all over the place, but
Yeah.
Acts 1 and 2 I thought had a solid flow to them. For my second good, let's go with the beach scene between McClane and Jack Nicholson.
That's a good scene.
Yes, again, they're doing donuts on the beach, and they get ejected from the car. They both land in the water, and the music swells, and you expect to have this big kiss, like a 1950s on the beach kind of moment,
Right.
until he shoves his hand down her shirt, just stops the music in its tracks, freaks her out, notably so.
Yeah.
And so, the scene plays with the expectations of the viewer in a fun way.
And I'd read Nicholson improv that.
Yeah, that part you could easily classify as a bad.
Yes.
Easily classify as a bad without her consent. However, even if that had not happened,
right? That scene standalone, yeah.
Yes, yeah. It's just I love how it plays with the viewer's expectations and subverts them in the end.
Right.
And my last one, I will say, even though Act 3 had its issues, I will say it was simply gutsy to include a scene where a dying Emma talks specifically with two of her sons.
Yes.
Like they easily could have just brushed past that.
It's it really was a powerful scene. It's a scene that I could see, again, not really having not seen it and not knowing much about the movie plot-wise going in. It's probably one of those scenes that sticks with people.
Yeah. So those are my three goods. Oz, what are your two bads?
My first one is just Flap. He's a one-dimensional character.
Mm-hmm.
He's there purely for Emma's character to have something that's not her mom.
Yeah.
But then for him to turn out to be an awful guy too, I think Jeff Daniels was fine in the role like that, but for him to turn out to be an awful guy, it really, I think it confuses the message of it. Mother knows best.
Mm-hmm.
Like it sucks that Emma had to go through that with Flap, but is that what the movie is? That one of the messages the movie was trying to tell us was, if you have a mother that's extremely controlling and over dominating your life, make sure you listen to her input about men, because she's probably right.
Because she's been right about everything.
Yeah,
and she will continue to be right.
Exactly. Like that felt like a message that could have been taken and it shouldn't have been. Because again, this Flap was Emma's opportunity to do something against her mother's will.
Well, just something for herself.
Yeah. And then it turns out to backfire on her.
Yeah.
And falls right into mom's lap.
Should have listened to mom.
Right. And it's just, I don't like seeing that, because I don't think that's the right message.
Yeah.
But
so if you find yourself in a codependent relationship with a parent, just lean into it.
Yeah, exactly. Just seriously, do what's best for everybody and just do what they tell you.
Just give in.
Right. And so, it just was, again, I don't think that was the intended message at all.
Sure.
But this is based on a novel, and I guess in the novel, Flap was even worse. I had an affair with Patsy, and
that's right. I did read that too.
It was hinted a little bit in this, but it never was.
There was a little moment where they kind of exchanged a little banter and a glance.
Yeah. And so, but to create the Flap character to basically be everything mom was warning her about, it almost cements Aurora as, Emma, you should have been listening to your mom all along. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I don't like the Flap character.
Sure.
Did some awful things, but I'd rather him have just been, a devoted husband, but still just maybe not as successful as he could have been. But it's like they were still making it work,
Yeah.
because then at least Emma had something. And even though it didn't shine in Mom's eyes, it was still hers. But she didn't have that. Like, it failed. And my second one, and I mentioned a couple times, just the time jumps.
Yeah.
They were just, they didn't confuse the film because you still followed the plot, but it took some getting used to, because again, you really had to pay attention to what's going on in the scene to know, is this a phone call the next week? Oh, no, wait, you have another kid and are pregnant with a third one. It's been a few years, it's been time. And it's just, it made me wonder when I saw these big time jumps. I know you've talked to your mom in the meantime. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, it hasn't been months since you spoke to your mother, because she calls all the time. So what is, so it's like, why are we just microdosing this particular engagement?
Yeah.
Like, what is it about this phone call? And so that it raised more questions than it provided answers.
Sure.
So those are my two bads. What do you got?
I have several here that I'm going
That's
through
fair.
right now. I might move one or two down to my as well. Right near the end of the movie, Tommy is beside himself because his mother just died.
Yeah.
And Aurora just slaps him across the face.
Yeah, he kind of badmouthed. Oh, she beat the tar out of him.
Yeah,
right there, and like right there in like the hospital, like
in front of these mandated reporters.
Yeah,
she just open hand just slaps him. And again, it's okay to confront a child. It's not okay to hit them.
Yeah, I forgot about that scene.
Yeah, so definitely a big bad on Aurora's part right there. And for my other one, I'm going to go with just the whole New York scene bothered me.
Yeah.
Like, it just, I mean, I'm combining a couple I had here. First of all, just what was the point of it? Like, is it like Emma's dealing with her cancer diagnosis? Because it sort of touched on that, but it didn't really engage too far.
To me, it felt like, because she and Patsy kind of grown apart. They were still friends, but they weren't in each other's lives as much. Mm-hmm. To me, it felt like Patsy's last-ditch effort to do something with Emma before she, before things got worse. Yeah. That's how it felt to me. It was just Patsy, like, okay, come to New York City with me. Like, and Emma was thrilled. I'm going to New York City. What do we see? And then realized, of course, I don't like it because Des Moines.
I mean, it's Des Moines, New York City.
Right.
I mean,
but it's like you grew up in Houston, so it's not like you haven't been in a big city.
Correct. And I'm going to add on to this as well. In addition to what was the point, it's the other, like, Emma's friends there took it upon themselves to share, or not Emma's,
Patsy.
Patsy's friends took it upon themselves to share Emma's cancer news with every other people. Like, that's Emma's news to share. You don't get to just tell anyone and everyone about that without Emma's consent to share that. And yes.
it did provide a little like humorous bit where when they were out to lunch and Emma and like Patsy's friends all left and Emma was like, what's the big deal? It's just cancer. Like, it's not, like, it's my big deal, but like, it's not taboo. Mm-hmm. And then the cut to that next party where a friend comes up to Emma. She's like, Patsy tells me you've got cancer, like something like that. And it's just, and she just burst out laughing because it was like, it went from one extreme to the other of like, oh, we have to kids glove this poor lady because she's got cancer, to where now it was like a dinner topic.
And then it cuts back to her in a hospital bed in Iowa.
Exactly. Cut to Nebraska.
Or wherever.
She's all wired up and is on her way out.
Yeah, it didn't fit the narrative. Yeah.
No, so it was a weird scene.
Yeah. Those are my bads. Oz, what is your
This one hit me pretty quick and early. Mm-hmm. Where does Jack end and Garrett begin?
Yeah.
This seemed to be for some of the parts, based on what you've heard of Jack Nicholson, especially in the 80s, seemed to be a very easy role for him to fill in on.
Yes, very natural.
Yeah. So that was my question. Like, when did Jack Nicholson end and when did Garrett Breedlove begin? Because pretty natural role for Jack, for Jack DiCaprio.
Jack DiCaprio.
So what do you got?
I'm going to share a couple runners up here. At one point early in the movie, Flap calls Emma his sweet A-word gal.
Uh-huh.
So how come when I call Patreon subscriber Melissa L that, why doesn't she swoon for me like Emma does?
It's funny you bring that up because that exact scene, my wife says to me, she goes, "You can start calling me that if you want." So I've been calling her my sag lately,
Nice.
all weekend long.
Nice. Oh, that's
my
great.
Sag. She's like, in public, people might look weird because they'll think you're calling me saggy or something. But I'm like, nope, you're my sag. So it's funny you bring that up because that was it's been a joke around here for the long weekend.
Nice. My other backup one, and this almost was a bad, I just didn't have enough bads. One is sad for the sake of sad too much.
Yeah.
We'll just leave that there. So my real though is, what is flap short for?
I don't know.
Flappered? Or is it just Flap?
Just Flap.
Is it like an old family name? Like he's Flap the Fourth.
Like Hack Wilson or I don't know.
Flapford.
I would have a hard time, I think, taking my English professor seriously if I knew his name was Flap. And he looked like Jeff Daniels. Like Flap. Yeah, I'm with you.
Hey, I'm Professor Horton, but you can call me Flap.
That's right. Hey there. Oh, Flap. That's a great question. What is Flap short for?
What is Flap short for? I don't know. The question that has been bothering me since I watched this a couple weeks ago. All right. Well, hey, that's Terms of Endearment. A good movie.
It is a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm curious. 1984 Oscars. What did it beat at the 1984 Oscars?
Best Picture. I got it. Terms of Endearment, The Big Chill,
okay.
The Dresser. I'm assuming it's about bedroom furniture.
Yeah.
The Right Stuff, and Tender Mercies.
I haven't seen any of the other four. I know The Right Stuff and The Big Chill have had some legs. Obviously the other two we haven't. But I'd say, just like none of those stick out as been like, oh my God, I've seen that. It's so much better. So sure. This doesn't look like a super strong year of memorable Oscar winners.
Tender Mercies, Robert Duvall, Ellen Barkin. Robert Duvall plays a former country music star whose career and relationship with his ex-wife and daughter were wrecked by alcoholism. That's got Oscar bait all over it.
It does. And then The Dresser is British, Peter Yates,
Michael Goo.
Yeah, Albert Finney. Personal assistant Norman struggles to get deteriorating veteran actor Sir through a difficult performance of King Lear. The Dresser.
It's just about someone getting dressed.
Yeah.
Or about someone who dresses other people.
Mm-hmm. Or an armoire, like you said.
Mm-hmm. Or an armoire.
Yeah. So, yeah, that one feels like Oscar bait for sure.
Yeah.
I think they remade it. I think so. Starring Anthony Hopkins.
Of course, Anthony Hopkins.
He plays Sir, so yeah, it's a remake. Ian McKellen, Emily Watson, Vanessa Kirby.
Oh, so recent then, if Vanessa Kirby's in it.
2015. So, yeah, Terms of Endearment. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I said it's not one of those where there's one that's like stood the test of time.
Yeah.
So, what do we have next week? Speaking of Oscar-nominated films.
Speaking of Oscar-nominated. As we close out 2025, year 4 of Wives' Choice months, we're closing with one from my wife. The 1994 film Clifford.
Mm-hmm.
This movie was made in 1990 and then sat on the shelf for 4 years over, I think it was like a production dispute or like a studio dispute or something like that.
What were they arguing? We can't let this see the light of day.
I think that's what it was. I have a soft spot for Clifford.
I do too.
It definitely, we'll get into this more next week, but it is a movie that bombed at the box office, was critically just reviled, but has picked up a cult following.
It in all fairness, it's a terrible movie.
Yes.
But it does have some charm to it.
Yes, it does.
That really like makes it a fun watch.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it all comes down to the two leads.
Yes, Mary Steenburgen.
Yes, and also Barry Steenburgen.
Yeah, exactly. I thought this movie was older. I remember watching this more than once, like as in my younger years. I asked my wife after we watched Terms of Endearment, I go, do you want to watch next week's movie with me? She goes, what is it? So I just showed the trailer for Clifford. And she went, absolutely not. Then it hit me. I'm like, this movie came out in 94? Like, I was 14, 15 years old. I look back, I'm like, I was way too old in my mind of like, when I would have been like the ripe age to appreciate this. I remember being younger than that when I watched it. Obviously wasn't. And so I'm like, oh, must have struck a nerve with me in my mid-teen years to have given it multiple watches.
Giving it a shot.
So
Mary
I do remember
it.
It may have been Mary Steenburgen. So Clifford for next week.
Yes.
Social media wise, you guys can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. YouTube Shorts are also there if you want to see what each episode is a little bit about before you watch the whole thing. But we're just keep chipping along at these things.
Yeah.
Patreon link down below if you do want to share a little bit of currency.
Yes.
We do take Bitcoin. We'll have our own meme coin coming out soon.
Ozcoin.
Flixcoin.
Flixbits.
Yeah, there we go. Flixbits. So, but no. Anyway, Clifford for next week, and already dropped social media. So for another week of Let's Talk About Flicks, I'm Oz.
I'm Curtis.
We'll see you guys next week.